today, Lesson 39. Für Elise is a perennially popular keyboard piece by Ludwig van Beethoven. It's in the key of A minor with a 3/4 time signature. Listen to it now, following the music through in your booklet. Watch out for the repeats, by the way. And you'll notice there are 5 metronome beats to start. The extra 2 are for the missing first 2 beats of the first bar. Für Elise by Beethoven. On the whole, Für Elise isn't too difficult to play, but there are some points that you'll find need special practice. For instance, in the 3rd full bar of the piece, in the left hand, you get an octave stretch from E to E, followed by a G sharp played with the 2nd finger crossing over the thumb. You've had plenty of practice with the technique for this, but it still may take a little time before you can manage it smoothly and accurately. Again, in the last bar of the 3rd line of music on the same page 457, the 2 hands start a series of overlapping octaves moving up the keyboard. These will need some careful practice. Notice how the left hand moves into the treble clef here, and then back into the bass clef again. This happens several times in the course of the music, so don't be caught out by it. Starting 3 bars from the end of page 459, the left hand has repeated notes, another technique you've practiced in earlier lessons. Then, at the bottom of page 460, the right hand moves into triplets, running right up the keyboard in arpeggios and down it again in a chromatic scale. Remember, when playing the triplets, to keep to the same steady 3 beats to a bar. you'll probably find you have problems getting the arpeggios smooth and accurate at first, because the thumb under from E to A is quite a stretch. As usual, slow practice will solve any difficulty. If your instrument is a piano, Für Elise offers a good chance to experiment with the use of the pedals. You may find the soft pedal improves the tone of your playing in the quiet passages, and the sustaining pedal is essential, although you must use it with care, changing the pedal wherever the harmonies change, so that it doesn't blur all the sounds together in a messy way. Above all, Für Elise must be played with real feeling, and that comes down to your own individual interpretation of the piece. Very early on in this course, you met all the intervals in a scale from a second up to an octave. But you can go on beyond an octave, creating intervals of a ninth, a tenth, an 11th, and so on. As you can see on page 462 of your booklet, the interval between C and D, which is normally a second, can be transformed into a ninth if the D is raised an octave higher. In the same way, other intervals of a second, such as D to E or E flat to F, can also become ninths. A ninth chord consists of a seventh chord with a ninth, measured from the root note, added on top. Or, to look at it another way, a ninth chord is a seventh chord plus an added interval of a third. The type of ninth chord you end up with depends on the type of seventh chord you start from. The dominant seventh chord, for example C7, with the addition of a major ninth, becomes the classic ninth chord C, E, G, B flat and D, written as C9. The major seventh chord becomes a chord of a ninth with major seventh, for example C, E, G, B and D, written as C9 7 plus. The minor seventh, with a major ninth added, becomes a minor ninth chord. For instance, C, E flat, G, B flat, D, written as C, M9. It can be quite difficult to play a 5-note chord with one hand, and in any case most people's hands will only comfortably stretch to an octave. So, the notes of a full ninth chord are usually distributed between the two hands. This can be done in a number of different ways, illustrated on page 463 of your booklet. Firstly, with the root note in the left hand and the other 4 notes in the right. Or you may find the root note and the 7th in the left hand, with the right hand playing the 3rd, 5th and 9th. And finally, here are 9th chords with the root note and 5th in the left hand. We'll be presenting a summary table of 9th chords at the end of your booklet for Lesson 40. The last of our Approaches to Jazz, on pages 464 and 465, takes us through to full swing improvisation. We've already seen how, in improvisation, you can make effective use of chromatic notes, a semitone below the notes of the underlying chord, as well as the notes of the chord itself. Now let's look at the use of passing notes, other notes from the same scale as the notes of the chord. In example 1, on page 464, the improviser can use not only the notes of the C major 7 chord, but also D, F and A, available as passing notes from the same scale. We'll hear the example now. You'll notice that only the first 2 bars are written out in your booklet. here's example 2 with a C7 chord. In example 3, F is used as a passing note in the first bar over a C minor 7 chord. If we put passing notes and chromatic notes together in an improvisation, we get something like this. In the swing accompaniment, it's always best to try a varied, syncopated rhythm when playing the chords. Here's an example. Adding notes from the chord and passing notes to the bass line, you can create what's known as a walking bass to very good effect. Try playing around with all these ideas for improvisation, accompaniments and bass lines, using as many different keys as you can. Why not try D major or F major for a change, instead of always sticking to the key of C? Only constant practice will eventually make you fluent at elaborating on any chord sequence. Princess is our piece with backing for this lesson. You'll notice that it has a 32-bar middle section for improvisation. In fact, the same 16 bars repeated twice. Of course, although the chords are the same, your improvisation doesn't have to be identical the second time through. Notice also the use of rhythmic notation in the left hand, in bar 10 for instance. Here you just repeat the chord at the start of the bar in the rhythm as indicated. The right-hand part, in the very last 2 bars of the piece, poses some problems of fingering, and will need a little special practice. Apart from that, the rhythm is the most tricky aspect of the music. But if you get into the swing of it, you shouldn't find it too difficult. So let's hear Princess with keyboard and backing. to end this lesson, here's the backing alone for you to play along.